Hey everyone, and welcome to the 8-Figure Agent Podcast. My name is Jared Larson, and I'm joined by my co-host Matt Walker, CEO of Swivel, the world's most flexible financial services CRM. Our mission is to build community, a community where we can empower each other to achieve remarkable success in the financial sector. Join Matt and me every week as we will motivate you to reach new heights in your career and unlock your full potential. Reaching your next level of success starts now. Hi, and welcome back to the 8-Figure Agent Podcast. I'm Jared Larson alongside Matt Walker, CEO of Swivel. And today we've got a special guest. It's actually a personal friend of mine, but what you're going to learn is he's an exceptionally talented individual and entrepreneur. We've got John Parks, Chief Marketing Officer with ClickFunnels. John, thanks for jumping on with us today.
So excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna break every rule of podcasts here, and I'm just gonna read some stuff because this dude is so amazing that you just need to hear what he's done. John Parks is a master driving web traffic for more than 5 years now. He's been a coach and stage presenter for over tens of thousands of marketers looking to up their game. As a CMO at ClickFunnels, he runs the entire organic and paid traffic teams and dominates the markets he jumps into. He spent millions in ads and generated millions. He knows his way around ads like the back of his hands. He's been on multiple podcasts. I mean, this guy is the real deal when we start talking about how do we generate leads? How do we grow our business? Organic, paid ads, everything. I mean, John is our guest today. So John, before we jump into it, tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us your story and how maybe some of those early year situations that really predicted or helped push you into where you are today.
Yeah, it's always an interesting question. So we let's see, when I was we're gonna go way back. When I was a baby, we lived in Florida, okay, for 4 years till I was 4 years old. But when I was 4, my mom died in a car accident. That's actually where I get this scar. The car slammed into this side of our vehicle, killing her instantly and breaking this leg and, throwing glass and scarring me and all kinds of, and my other brothers too. And that really set me on a different trajectory than I think I would have otherwise been on. You can imagine. So my dad's now raising 4 boys, ages 2 to 8. So they're young. We're young. And I mean, he gets remarried in a couple years, but it's not the same. It's, it's a stepmom now, not the mom. And I remember thinking when I was 4, 5 years old, like, it's time to be my own man, and there I am, a 5-year-old being like, I've got to figure this out, right?
Wow.
The primary loving caretaker who was supposed to be, coddling me is gone. And so it's now up to me. So I became independent really early. And I think that really set me on this entrepreneurial path, You see it when I'm 8, 9 years old, I'm selling stuff through the neighborhood. I've got catalogs of stationery, and I'm walking because I was able to do this thing. I was able to connect, like, I want that, and what do I need to do to get that?
Yeah.
Right. And so in this case, I remember specifically it was a bow and arrow. I wanted a bow and arrow. And I knew to get it, I needed to sell 12 pieces of stationery because I calculated the commissions, right? And so I did, and I went all day. I woke up fairly early on a Saturday, and I walked until the sun went down, knocked every door in 3 neighborhoods, and I did it. And I made my 12th sale, and I walked home, and I just fell on the ground. But I was like, I was a successul salesman today. I got what I wanted, and I did it in one day. You know what I mean?
That's great.
So I just kind of had that vibe early on.
So John, do you think so you're talking about this motivation, you just had it, right? It's like, I want that, so I need to do this to get that. Is that something you're born with? Did you teach yourself that? Was the accident the thing that made that? Or what advice do you have? Like, I get it because I'm motivated, I'm a high achiever, but what about the person that's struggling?
Yeah.
Taking that step?
I think that's a good question. And I see it in personality type differences, right? But I think every personality type and everyone's approach to life, you can find your motivation, and your motivation comes from, I'm going to say, your why. And your why, you've heard that and you've read it in self-help books and stuff like that. But the why can be as shallow as a bow and arrow, which is a fantastic why because it's short term and you can get it and you know exactly how to get it, right? And you can usually find what I like to call the fastest path to cash.
Mhm.
Sometimes those short term whys are a great way to find motivation, right? So for example, yeah, a bow and arrow, or you legitimately want to get a Tesla, and you have 6 months, and you give yourself 6 months to do it, and if I can earn $15,000 by that 6 month mark, that's what I need to get it. Well, then that's easy. That's measurable. You can do it. Sometimes we set our motivations and our whys so far out and so nebulous that it's hard for them to be tangible. It's like I want to be that billionaire who has the Tony Stark house on the cliffside in California.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, how do you get there? It's like nobody knows actually the path, because it's going to be this jagged, changing directions every 2 years to even get there. You don't know that path, but you know the path 6 months from now.
Yeah. I think of that often. I'm thinking about these little tangible goals that you can measure. And what I like to think of it as is a win streak.
Hmm.
And, you can create this momentum. And if you can just get that little win, and then that second little win, and you can see it, you start building momentum that you can really start to step on.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I've got 5, soon to be 6 children. And I don't even know if I told you that. Yeah, we're expecting in July. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, we're excited. And it's fun to see this with children too, because it's more clear. I feel like when you're working with the little kids, because their motivations are easily measurable and they're small. It's less
Yeah.
complicated as an adult. And so you can see it there and reflect it in your own life. But yeah, the same thing. Like if I give them a very clear, measurable thing, it's like, hey, if you do these 3 chores, you can have the thing. It's really quite amazing how much they can get done in half an hour. Or if I just say, do all your chores before you can play, and it's nebulous and it's complicated and stuff, then it's hard for them to accomplish. Same thing with us, right? If we're not have clarity on the steps we need to take to get to the thing in a fairly short period of time, then yeah, we're not going to get the wins, and we're just going to kind of fumble around.
Yeah. So take that motivation bow and arrow. I'm picturing this like little motivated salesman,
Right, exactly.
and you're going through high school and college, and you're ending up where you are now. Like, walk us through the rest of that journey.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know if you guys have read anything or listened to Alex Sharfin, but he's an interesting fellow. He talks a lot about the entrepreneur like mindset, or the entrepreneur personality type, right? And how we really are, a square peg trying to fit into the round hole.
Yeah.
And so you got this thing like school and college, and sit in a desk and do the studies and read all the book and stuff like that. That a lot of times entrepreneurial minded people, or salesmen, people who want to start their own business and do their own thing, they don't fit in that box. And so sometimes we think we're doing it wrong, right? So there I was in college. I never read the textbook. In fact, I'll tell you this, the one thing. There was the science class that you sign up, right? This is confession hour, right?
Yeah.
So we sign up for this science class, and the teacher straight up day one said this. He's like, you can come to every class and take every quiz and do every assignment, and I'll just take the average, and that'll be your grade. Option number 2, just take the tests, forget about the assignments, and I'll average those out. Option number 3, I don't care what you do, take the final, and your final will be your grade. Well, guess what? The entrepreneur, independent dude is like, I'm out of here, folks.
Yeah.
See you at the final, right? And so I did
What
nothing
grade did
for
you get
that
in that class, John?
I got a B-, and I studied that textbook the night before.
Yeah.
But I devoured it, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think the prescribed way is the right way.
Yeah.
But why is that the right way? Your way might be the right way. And in fact, a lot of times when it comes to sales, like an individual, small business, a financial planner, an entrepreneur, figure out your way, do it that way.
Yeah, I think it's so intriguing because I'm picturing 4-year-old little mini man, John, goes out at 8 and gets his bow and arrow, and you're percolating this entrepreneurship spirit, and then you're rolling into high school and you got into college, and you're like, man, I feel something different. It's compelling. It's pulling me to be not doing it how everyone's telling me to do it. Let's talk about the first couple jobs that you land.
Yeah.
How did that mindset contribute to what you're doing? Like, share what you were doing, and then how you started just succeeding and finding the next level of success and just keep going.
So I think I've thought about this a lot, right? Because there's definitely pivot points where I change from just kind of the normal job path to leadership. And I was like, what is that key element there that really lets you, I'm going to say, climb the ladder, for as cliche as
Yeah.
that is, right? And I think it has everything to do with grabbing responsibility, So I'm gonna give you an example. So I started, working with Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, and at first I had one job. I was supposed to run this one little project, and okay, that was fun, but I noticed that this ball was getting dropped, so I just picked it up, right? That responsibility. I noticed that this one was getting dropped, so I picked up that one and this one and this one, and just because I'm a responsible guy, and because I saw that they weren't happening, and I knew how to do it. I'm like, well, I can figure something out like that. I'm a problem solver, right? I can solve that problem. I can solve that problem. And eventually, I was holding the majority of the balls in this company. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
And he's all like, I remember the day, maybe 5 years into working, with Russell Brunson, the entrepreneur. Um, and he's like, well, since you kind of like do everything around here, here's some equity. Like, let's just be partners, right?
Yeah.
He's like, since I own the company and apparently you manage the company. And it wasn't because there's other ways to climb the ladder too. You can like throw elbows and push everybody down and try to dominate. That's not who I am. I'm just a responsible, nice guy. So the other way to do it, if you're trying to body slam everybody, is you literally pick up the responsibilities as they're dropped, and pretty soon you have all the responsibilities, and you do them well. Whether or not you wanted to, you're now the CEO of the company. Right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So talk to us about the greatest struggle. Like, let's hear the raw. Let's hear the real story. Like, there's somewhere in this 10, 15-year period
right?
where you just got knocked down.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let me think of a few of them. Um, there was times when I was selling a financial software, and it was actually network marketing based, right? And this financial software, and I went to trade shows, and I called, and I knocked doors, and I busted my buttons for, I don't know, 6 months. I couldn't get. I think I got one person interested. It was just a massive failure. And my young, brand new wife at that time was like, "Hey, so when does the money come in?" Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she could see that I was like sweating bullets and
Yeah.
working my heart out, and nothing, right? And so then you just have to pivot at that point. You just have to be like, well, either I can't sell this thing or it's unsellable or whatever, but let's move to something else. Another time, I was in college, but like I said, I wasn't doing the traditional college route. I was often not attending, figuring out I was clever enough. I could read the textbook and learn the stuff and whatever and take the test. But otherwise, I was working in real estate, right? So I'm buying and selling houses and flipping stuff. And there came a point where we were holding a few $1 million of real estate, and it happened to turn 2008, right?
Yeah.
And so we were fully leveraged as college kids. We had no
Yeah.
cash in and no equity. We're just, and all of a sudden, boom, we're upside down, like, I don't know, $1 million in real estate. And so things are foreclosing. And that was horrible.
That's tough.
It's horrible, and I was so sick to my stomach. I could barely eat. It was just the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
I owed all these people all this money. And again, my wife, she's the most supportive and loving person you could ever imagine, and she's just trying to like lift me up in this time, and
Yeah.
and I'm just like this blah blah. I don't even want to get out of bed because you don't want to face the next day at that in those points of your life, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing; those cycles happen to entrepreneurs. They happen to people, everybody running a business. You cycle, and Russell Brunson said it once. It was really genius. He was talking to someone, and they're not willing to work or partner with anybody who hasn't cycled, is what they call it. Every
Yeah.
entrepreneur cycles.
I recently just had a meeting with a bunch of entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and there was a success on one of the exits that happened that we did. And as I went in to talk with all these guys, and I was nervous, and the gals that were there, I was thinking, oh man, what stories am I gonna tell? How we talk about this? And man, they were just everyone wanted to hear about your failures. That was the theme of the meeting. Is like that's what was interesting to them.
Yeah. Isn't
So
that interesting? Yeah,
yeah,
that's fascinating to me. And until you've cycled, um, and you've realized that failure and you've come back out of it,
yeah,
you're not like you're not certified yet.
Yeah,
It's true. It's so
absolutely.
It's
true.
like that's your degree
Yeah.
when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Agreed.
Well, and I think that maybe what I would take away from what you're saying, John, is hey, be comforted, man, knowing that you're in the cycle.
Right.
Like that's part of the process. And rather than like divorcing yourself from the situation and staying down, embrace it and say, all right, I'm going to trust John and Matt and me and all these other people that have cycled. You're going to come out the other side. You're not going to come out the other side if you don't work, right? You don't stay there and come out the other side. There's this precipice or this moment where you got to make a decision. And I call it Wimp Junction, where you can choose to do or you can choose to don't. And what you choose at that moment propels you. So I'm guessing at this moment, you're millions in the holes. You failed on your software sales business. And now you're sitting there with your beautiful wife, Vanessa. And what decision do you make?
It's in that time, where she's like, "Look, let's just kind of step away. Let's go to a family reunion I'm having at Bear Lake, right?" And so I'm like, "Okay, that sounds great." So, we're going up there, and the whole drive, it's about a 2-hour drive to get to northern Utah at the time, and she's telling me, "Well, there's this person, then you're gonna meet my cousin, this person, and then you're gonna meet this person," and she's kind of just briefing me, and I'm half listening and half worried about everything that I'm worried about because that's just where you are at the bottom of a cycle, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, and then there's this cousin I have. His name's Russell, and he's entrepreneurial, kind of like you. And I don't know, maybe you guys will get along. And right, so I end up at Bear Lake, and I'm meeting everybody, and then I end up on a boat with this Russell fellow, and he he quickly realizes I'm at the bottom of a cycle, but he realizes I'm entrepreneurial and scrappy, and he's like, come work for me. And sometimes you have to do that, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur, you have to find the person who can help you out of the bottom of the cycle.
Yeah.
You kind of need, that mother hen who's like, okay, I'll get you out, we'll get you back on your feet, and then we'll do something awesome because I know you're the right person, right? And so he took me under his wing basically at that point and started helping me get the wins, and that was everything to me because then I could take those wins and literally pay off my debt in the
Yeah.
bottom of the cycle. And and I was scrappy enough that I would negotiate, I would figure it out, I would earn this much and I'd be like, hey, you guys know I'm completely bankrupt. Will you take a quarter of the money and call this good? And things like that. And
Yeah.
so I did what I could do and you get out.
Yeah. I love that you own that story. One thing, John, as I was stalking you on Facebook or Instagram or something, I saw something. It's flashing in my head right now, and it says faith, family, entrepreneurship. How has that defined you? How has that helped you? What's that even mean to you?
Yeah. I love to put God first, right? And I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. Member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that has always been my pillar of strength. The thing that I can rely on, I can lean on. There's nothing bigger. There's nothing more stable than God in your life, right? And having that stability lets you take the risks that you need to take in being a solopreneur, an entrepreneur. That it's radically uncertain, and having the certainty of God and your faith
Mm.
allows you to reach out like that. So, and there's other things I do in my life to make sure that my base is certain. Have you heard of the concept of certainty versus uncertainty? Tony Robbins goes into it quite a bit, right? The human needs. Um, and so I really make an effort to make sure that everything that's outside of my entrepreneurialness is as certain as possible because that is radically uncertain,
Yeah.
which gives me the balance I need to not go crazy, right?
Yep.
And so things like I keep my faith as well oiled and as solid as I possibly can, praying, reading scriptures, attending my church meetings, those kind of things. I keep my relationship as conflict free, as loving, as time invested as I possibly can, so that's as stable as possible. I can't have instability there, right? I keep my finances as stable as possible because I know that. So an example, here's an interesting example on this, and I know I'm kind of on a tangent here, but um, there came a point where I had the cash to pay off my house or if you have that much cash, you could do something else with it, right? And so I'm talking to some financial planners, and they're like, "Well, yeah, look at the spreadsheet. Like, your mortgage is so low. Like, it would be a bad idea on a spreadsheet to pay off your house." And it would, what do you save? 4%? Well, I know somewhere where you can make a lot more than 4% on that money. But that's not what it was about. It was about the certainty that I could get by paying off that house and knowing that my family's stable. If I was a horrible crash and burn entrepreneur, whatever, I still have the house. I still
Yeah.
have the family, right? And creating that foundation, that stability, um that no 0 point, was everything for mine. I remember doing that. We even celebrated. It's July 20th, and we celebrated as debt-free day in our family,
I
right?
love it.
The point where we paid everything off, and that night when you go to bed on debt-free day plus one, it's crazy. Like, you're just like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing because now it's so stable that you can be crazy risky on the other side.
Yeah.
I just taking a quick detour to going into our industry, in the financial service industry. I love that you said that. And if our advisors and agents are listening, it's important to maximize people's retirement and do the things that you're supposed to do for them. But I think that we highly undervalue the emotional need
Yeah.
that our clients have to have that feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that we, as overall planners, overall advisors, I mean, that was a great one. Hopefully everyone that's listening hear it. We got to do that. We got to give that feeling to people.
Right. And
I
on that
love
same vein, my brother, he's in this industry, and he sells stuff, and he really convinced me that I should, get certain life insurance policies put in place and stuff like that. And at first, it's funny because at first nobody wants to do it because the expense is high, right? And the
Yeah,
return
yeah.
is low. But it's the thing that matures, over a few years. And that's another point of stability that I have that
Mhm.
allows me to be extremely risky. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking like an insane amount of money in like the wildest, most volatile cryptocurrency startups you can imagine. And this and that, like things that are like 95% likely to lose your money, but if it works, you're gonna 1,000x, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy stuff like that. Well, you can't do that if you don't have
Your
the
base.
financial stability, if you don't have that life insurance, if you don't have that house paid off, if you don't have those things that really make you anchored,
Yep.
that lets it's like this weird juxtaposition between like, well, I could earn 8% of my money if I put it in an index fund versus only saving 4% if I pay off my mortgage or whatever. But that 4% difference doesn't equal the multiples I could get by being crazy risky over here
Yeah.
because I've got the base.
Yeah.
Well, and what I ultimately hear is it's boiled down to what you need.
Right.
And understanding your needs, and in our industry, that's important, and maybe sometimes that's overlooked.
Yeah.
When we talk about certainty, I have one question: that there is a right and a wrong answer, and I want to kind of shift the podcast
Yeah.
into the direction of industry specific, and let's talk
Awesome.
about marketing, lead generating, all that good stuff. But before we do that, I think that the world wants to know what a successful entrepreneur's favorite cereal is, and I'm certain that there is a right and wrong answer here.
There's a right
So,
wrong answer.
I know there's a right and a wrong answer here, and I'm just gonna be honest about it. Okay, it is peanut butter Captain Crunch. So I don't know if that's right.
I could not have paid you enough money to say it. John Parks, that was the only certain answer that you could
It's
say.
the only one. I got it.
Look, here's my theory on cereal. There's
Yeah.
a lot of right answers.
Right.
And there's a lot of good cereal out there. But Captain Crunch, it hurts the top of your mouth.
Oh, it totally
tears
does.
it all up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's fine.
No,
fine.
it's
why-
injury in a box. I
It is
100%
injury
agree
in a
with
box.
that. But it's
some
kind of like the
people
same
love it.
injury of when you're like, like you're mountain biking up a huge hill and then you're like screaming down the other side. You're certain to crash and like break something, but it's kind of worth the ride.
All right. That's good.
And
Legitimate.
there's no cereal that's soft and supple that you can eat that's grown tough, thick, cycled entrepreneurs like peanut butter
Right.
Captain Crunch.
There's like peanut butter crunch. That makes a lot of sense here.
Okay, so John, let's dive into the financial services, right? Financial professionals, advisors, and agents, and let's just talk about individuals that are starting out, lead generation, segmentation, marketing, generating leads. Like, where do I even start? Like, talk to
Yeah.
the community.
Yeah.
And
It's a great question. There's a variety of ways you can generate leads. You can spend money in advertising to get leads. You can so there's kind of like two ways to do it, right? And we break this down multiple times when we teach this. You can either work your way in or buy your way in, and that's kind of what you get, right? You can either work your way for those leads or buy your way for those leads, and so if you've got the cash and you've got the chops for it, you can advertise, and we can talk about the audiences and stuff like that, and how to do that here in a sec. But to finish that concept, or maybe you don't have the cash or you don't want to put it out. Well, then you work for it. And what does work for it look like? You show up on someone else's podcast. You collaborate with them on a YouTube channel. You start your own YouTube channel. You start your own social media profiles, and you work for it, right? So you're either putting in the dollar equity or the sweat equity, but that's how you build it.
I love that. So, okay, so I'm just starting out in the industry. Talk to us a little bit about ad spend and what you've learned from that and utilizing social media and where do I go for that?
Okay, so if we're gonna talk in the weeds here, there's nowhere better to start advertising than the platform called Meta, which includes Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and the ads that run there. There's no engine, there's no platform that's easier to get into and figure out, crack the code on, and there's no algorithm that's better at getting you what you want, getting those leads, right? Yeah, you could advertise on Reddit, on Quora, on Twitter, and we do all that. You could advertise on Google, but it's more complicated. It just takes another level of understanding. And the easiest one is to start on Meta, or some people used to call it Facebook ads, but now it includes more. So, um, learning Facebook ads, you could literally do it in 45 minutes on YouTube, right? You could learn the mechanics of it, right? And then you'll get good at it over weeks and months. Um, it's just the way to go, and you can spend as little as $5 a day or as much as $5,000 a day and still be in a decent budget to hit your market. Yeah, go ahead.
So you've got millions of dollars here that you've run through the engine, right?
Right.
Through the Metas, through the all these other channels. How do I make sure that if I'm limping in or if
Mhm.
I'm just starting and
Mhm.
and I'm going to spend $5 a day, how do I make sure that that ad is going to reach the right people, that I have the best chance or opportunity for some sort of return?
Okay, so there's 3 layers you gotta worry about. There's 3 layers. And they're defined in the Meta ad platform as the campaign, the ad set, and the ad. Okay, at the campaign level, you are telling Meta what you want. Let's optimize for lead generation. Somebody to fill out this form, right? So I can get a lead and I can call them or whatever it is. Or let's optimize for a sale. I want them to buy my little ebook because at least I know that they're committed, and then I can call them and get them moving in the financial world. Or it's right. So are you lead gen, or you just want to drive traffic to your site, which is, unless you're real clever with it, probably the worst idea, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of wasted spend, and you just they just slap against your page and whatever. It's like kind of like if you were to go to the mall and just hand out brochures, the likelihood you get a call on that is very low, right?
Yeah.
So I would usually optimize for a conversion event. Get me a lead, get me a sale, right? Whatever it is. And in doing so, that AI algorithm is basically what it is over there in Meta. It can then see when those actions happen on your website, and it can say, "Oh, look at that. Apparently, 55-year-olds with 3 cats at their house tend to do this action, right?" And so then it starts to, with its like 1,200 something data points, it starts to really figure out what your audience is way before you know what your audience is. Way smarter than you. And that's the thing with AI. It's way better at data crunching. Humans are and probably always will be better at creativity, thinking, extending, going the next mile. The computers only do what they're told to do, but they're better at data crunching than you are.
Well, so I wasn't
Yeah,
aware of
yeah.
this. So AI is actually now going through those data points and recommending specific clients to go after. So it's AI that's doing that, not just an algorithm.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's
Wow.
so yeah. I mean, let's see. Here's an AI tangent we can go on. And there actually isn't anything there. AI is actually a misnomer. It doesn't even exist. And there's a lot of engineers who claim it either never will exist or we're multiple generations away from it actually existing, right? Artificial
Okay.
intelligence. And the definition of artificial intelligence is something that can actually think for itself and regenerate, right? So it could basically make another version of itself.
Yeah.
It could have babies. That's what artificial intelligence is. We're nowhere near that. Nowhere anywhere possibly near that. And there's it's some people speculate that it's like a you know that tangent line in geometry where you try to approach but you don't quite ever get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of a concept. It's a derivative that we'll never actually be able to get there. We'll only get really close.
So it's just really complex algorithms, is what you're
It's
saying.
complex algorithms. It's called large language learning models, where you basically give it an extreme amount of data and it tries to draw connections between it, right?
Gotcha.
So that's all that exists right now, and we've just gotten, over the last couple of years, leaps and bounds better at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, AI doesn't
That makes
exist. It's just a
sense.
real cool marketing term.
Yeah. Well, then we'll keep using it.
So, John, tell me now, you're in this campaign, you're
Yeah.
working through these 3 sectors, right, of the Facebook or the Meta ad spend. What do you need to pay attention to in terms of messaging, in terms of who you're sending it to? Like, what do I need to pay attention to?
Right. Okay. Good. Okay. So yeah, we got through one of the 3 things that we need to pay attention to.
Okay.
And one is the optimizing, telling them what to optimize for. So the next thing is it's at the ad set level is what it's called when you're in there working it, and that's who, right? Who's going to pay attention to this ad? And you can choose age demographics, and you can choose zip codes, countries, depending on what your needs are. And so you be as, how do I say this? You be as specific. You be as general as you specifically can, right? So you want to be, there's no reason to advertise to 18-year-olds if they can't buy your product, right? If they're completely outside of your zone. And so bring it into where if somebody actually within that, I guess another way I usually say it is don't waste $1, right? Choose your targeting so that every dollar of ad spend is going to a likely buyer.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're targeted. Because some people think about it the other way, right? They're like, well, who else can maybe? Well, who else can we? I don't know. Have you ever had a 67-year-old female buy your product? You haven't? Well, then let's just not do that one, right? That's going to be wasted ad spend.
Yeah.
So make sure that every dollar is going to somebody who's likely to buy, especially when you're starting out. Be picky. There's no benefit in saying, well, I could imagine that somebody in Timbuktu, who's 120 could possibly want my product. You don't want possibly, you want highly likely. Target so you're highly likely, especially if you're spending a minimal amount of money, and so that all of your ad spend goes to the most likely. Like how do you know that? How do you know who they are? Anecdotally, because you've made other sales, right? Because you know who listens to you.
Yeah.
You know who relates to you when you make videos and stuff like that. Who pays attention to you? Who doesn't? If you don't know that, ask your buddy, ask your wife. Who likes me and who doesn't? Who do I attract? You know what I mean? Oh, you happen to attract middle-aged men that that are married and have families. Okay, well then I'll target them. Because they seem to resonate with me, because that's everything in sales, right?
Yeah.
So go for that demographic. Can you niche it down? Ask yourself if you can niche it down, because I knew this fellow in real estate. He's actually here in the Valley, and his niche down, and he only, I wish I remember his name, but I know the story, and that's what's important. He only collects leads, and he niches to luxury homes in the Treasure Valley, which means he's cutting out 95% of his demographic, right? The people he could sell houses to, 95% of them he crossed off the list, and he's only selling to 5%. But you know what? That's amazing, because he's now the go-to guy for luxury homes in the Valley. He's the one that knows it. He knows what they look like. He knows what they feel like. He knows who the buyers are. He knows everything. And he's the person that you go to when you want a luxury home in the Valley. Be that guy. Be that niche, right? Whatever that niche is. Sell your financial products to dentists. Be the person who understands dentists the most, who can sell them the financial products they need. You know what I mean? So find your niche, and that's going to actually open up your market, where when you're generic, you're kind of a dime a dozen.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like the rifle approach versus the shotgun
right,
approach, right? If you're
right.
just blasting and hoping you're going to shoot
Right.
something,
Yeah.
good luck with that, right?
Yeah, people have this misconception that they're going to miss out on sales and clients if they niche.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you'll actually dominate your niche. I remember in college, I did pay attention in college. There was 3 things. there was only 3 ways to win in business. One is to be the price leader, but no one wants to do that but Walmart, right? Because you're just doing this price battle all the way down. And
Yep.
unless you have the size and weight of Walmart, don't ever be the price leader. You can never win. Okay, so you can be the price leader. One way to win, don't do it. Another thing you can be is the quality leader, right? So that's where you get
Best
What?
service, best product, whatever. it may
best
be.
service, best product. Louis Vuitton can sell a bag for $500 and Target sells it for $5. How can they do it? Quality leader, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's perceived quality on the name or
Yep.
whether it's actual quality. Okay, and then the third way is niche leader. So can you be the financial planner in in this zip code who just knows exactly how to talk to the real estate agents, exactly what they need. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. So, and that's what my brother's done in his financial practice over in the greater San Francisco area where all the software developers are. He's niched in, so where he is the financial advisor to the software guys who make, their 300K or whatever on their software companies. And he's the guy who's like, yeah, I know exactly what you need to do with your money.
Wow. So okay, we've got this campaign, right? We got to figure out where what we're going to actually do. Are we
Right.
targeting leads?
Right.
Are we targeting a product?
Right.
Now we got this messaging and niching down. I think this is so important. And in our industry,
Mhm.
there's not just necessarily one person that just does one niche, although there are some people that serve multiple product lines in
Cool.
our industry. And so then I want to kind of go back and forth with you. So I'm an agent advisor that I sell annuities, I do senior products, and I'm doing some investments. If I'm selling 3 different product lines, which each could represent very much niched area in our industry, would you suggest then that I actually target niches individually, or should I cast a broad net and, hey, I'm like the guru. I do it all. I'm the one tool in your belt.
If you can be the one tool in your belt for a specific demographic, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I like that because, we've interviewed a lot of very successful agents. I talked to a lot of them, and what you just said is really spot on. If you are broad, you're very narrow somewhere else.
Right.
And if you're narrow somewhere else, that's where the success comes from. It's not from the broadness, it's from the narrowness.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree. And so, I mean, those who are listening or sitting there for the first time, I mean, you got to just live into that. The other part that you said that I'm sitting here just kind of digesting. And our practice, we don't do a whole lot of social media work, but I have, 2,000 plus clients right now. I could go look at the demographics, and I could go in now and say, like, I have selected these people. What is it? And now I can go to social media and I can work in that ways. Or I can work on that group and say, okay, now this is the group I can go after. What's the message that they've heard that they
Right.
like from me? I know my message. I know it works for my market. Now I can start using that social media in a much more effective way. And I think there's a lot of great advisors that haven't even thought about using social media to succeed.
I think if you were to like look up on YouTube and start to ask questions that maybe your client would ask you,
Yeah.
I think you'll find examples of 1 or 2 or 3, financial advisors who have taken to social media
There
and
are. Yeah.
and have
Interesting.
cracked that code, and that's going to be a model for you. You can be like, oh, I get it. I could do it like that.
And then do it in your area or
Do it in your area. Do it in your flavor.
yeah,
Yeah.
the way you want to do it so you can find. And I think that sometimes we see people that have succeeded already and they go, oh, shoot, they got my space. I can't do anything about it. And the
Right.
reality is, if we're talking niches and we're talking narrows, like everyone can play
Right.
because your success depends upon how creative you are in getting into that narrow niche.
Right, exactly, and I'm glad you brought that up because I deal with that a lot as I coach people on the social media advertising and stuff like that. They're like, "No, I saw somebody on YouTube. He's the lawyer on YouTube." I'm like, "He's the lawyer? How many lawyers do I have down this street? 17 of them, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not the lawyer. He doesn't own the United States.
Yeah.
You can be there can be 17,000 successful lawyers on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can be one of them.
That's exactly. I love that.
I love this has taken me back to your college days. You're like, hey, the box tells you to do this. Society tells you to do this. And then we go out there. Well, social media tells me to do a lot of things. And maybe I go to YouTube and I find the one or the individual that's doing it or saying it right. But the reality is you're going to fail doing it John's way.
Right.
I got to find a way to be an entrepreneur. I got to find a way to do it my own way within maybe the confines of or structure of what that individual is doing. And if not, then we find this disingenuous nature that comes
Right.
out.
It's really interesting. There's a gal who has this program called charisma hacking, and the whole concept is that if I try to create a YouTube channel as if I was you,
Yeah.
then it's gonna look really wrong. But if I just be me, then it's gonna be me. And like, I have some friends, some people like me. So obviously I have a personality type where I can attract a certain kind of people, right?
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't like me. My neighbor doesn't like me, but hey, someone likes me. So like, it's obvious that I can attract a type of person. Will
Yeah.
attract those people.
I love it.
John, what about, okay, so we've walked through this kind of the meta and the ways that we can successfully go to market with that. What about channel strategies? Are there additional channels that you say, hey, we got to be paying attention to? Are there emerging markets that are starting to pop?
Right. It's a great question. Okay, so channels. Um, the best advice I could probably give on channels is that all of them work. You just have to figure out which ones you like. It's the same thing with like, what do I resonate, right? Um, what do you consume is usually the best place to start. Are you hanging out on YouTube a lot? If not, then don't make a YouTube channel because you don't know what YouTube looks like and feels like. You've never been over there, or you are rarely over there. But maybe you're just a Twitter person, right? Or maybe you're an Instagram person. Well, if that's the case, that's where you begin. Begin where you like to be.
Well, I like that.
So, John, then as we start to kind of wind to the end here, talk to me about if you were okay with what you know today as CMO of ClickFunnels, 30 plus years of all this knowledge, and you got to like decipher it down into a few sentences, and you're a financial advisor, planner, professional, where do you start?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm gonna give you like a game plan. Okay, so let's start with figuring out what platform you want to be on. You know, whether you're paid or organic there, what platform you want. I want to be on Instagram. I like Instagram. I hang out on Instagram all the time. That's my thing. I know how Instagram does it. I'll do the thing. So you're gonna be on Instagram. Okay, great. Decided that. Okay, then what do my people want to hear? That's what you don't know yet, right? And you don't know that until you create 100 videos. Mr. Beast, the all-time world's best YouTuber. There's no one better, right? You could argue with me, but I'd win. So no one knows YouTube better than Mr. Beast. Okay, so his famous quote, and it's completely true. You need to publish 100 pieces before you even look at whether anyone cared. Okay. And it's those 100 pieces, and then go back and look and be like, oh, look, whenever I said this, or whenever my topic was this, or whenever I, had this spin on it, I got double the engagement. Okay, great. Now you know what they want to hear.
Interesting.
So that's step 2,
Love it.
right? Yeah. And you don't know that. You can second guess yourself. You can triple guess yourself. You can get yourself in an analysis paralysis and never publish anything at all. You can worry that you're going to look dumb. You are. Guess what? You're going to look dumb. You're going to look dumb for your first 20 videos. And then your next 20 videos, you're going to look less dumb. And then eventually you'll suck so little, you'll actually be good. And that's the way you have to think about it. My first post is going to be horrific. And then it's going to be a little bit better. And it's going to take you 100 of them until you even feel. And in Mr. Beast, another quote, I just read his book, so it's fresh on my mind. It was a book by Daryl Eves where he talks a lot about Mr. Beast. If you're not looking back at your videos from 6 months and a year ago and are completely embarrassed, you're not growing.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, you're supposed to look back and be like, oh, shoot, I've come a long way, right?
Yeah. What other advice? So you've got these Mr. Beast quotes now, and what's the rest of this?
Oh, the rest of the
steps?
process. Yeah. Okay. So you can tell I'm a kind of a ADHD entrepreneur type, right? So you're publishing and you're figuring out the messaging that's working, and you could publish those 100 pieces in the next 30 days, 3 a day. Fast forward, right? Or you could publish one a week over the next 100 weeks and go the slow route, whatever's comfortable. But you just got to do it, right? You just have to have done the publishing. And then once you figure out your messaging, and then do more of that, right? And then figure out who's responding, and then always be giving value. And in fact, a lot of times what we'll do is you do a value post, and then an ask post, right? That's kind of the way to think about it. So this one, I'm totally giving value. I'm not pitching anything, not asking anything. It's just like, look, guys, here's a really cool thing you didn't know. I know it now. You know it, right? And here's another really cool thing that I just discovered, and so you're following me along as I learn stuff in financial world, right? And then the third one is, hey, did you know that I do this? If you want to know more about it, DM me, right? But it's at least got to be 60% give, 30% ask.
Yeah.
And that's the way you can start to get into that after you've done your initial post.
Yeah.
And then now you're generating leads.
Yep. And rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat.
Right.
Continue. Right.
Right.
Okay, what's the last piece of information, something that's burning a hole in your pocket you're passionate about, but that you need to get, you need our audience to hear?
Yeah, other than peanut butter Captain Crunch, huh?
Yeah,
So
that was a mic drop moment. We probably should edit.
we should right
Let's
there,
end it with
just
that.
Okay. I'm gonna do it. All right. So there I was, 12 years old, in church. My Sunday school teacher is teaching me, And he says, guys, do you want to know the number one? And this goes way back to the beginning of our discussion, right? How do you be
Yeah.
successful? Do you want to know the number one way to win in life? And I'm like, yes, sir, I do. I'm 12 years old. And that sounds like a great thing to know.
Yeah.
He says, okay, so this guy taught it to me, and he's a billionaire, owns all these companies, blah, blah, blah. So this was the plan. He said, get every day, before your day begins, you get a just a little index card, right? And you flip it to the back. On the back of the index card, you write the 5 things that you want to get done today, right? The 5 things you want to get done today, and then you look at it, and then you rank them 1 to 5. When based on what should I really get done today versus like, that one could wait till tomorrow if I didn't get to it, right? So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flip it over to the front side, and then rewrite them in the proper priority order, and stick that card in your pocket just like this, right? And write the things on it, and that is what you do. And you take that card, and that's with you, and it's in your pocket, and never leaves your pocket until you've either crossed everything off or you've decided that the last 1 or 2 are going to go to tomorrow, which is okay to decide that too. That's it. That's the secret to success, because we all get distracted and we do all this crap, and especially more so now with our phones and all this stuff. If you can have clarity at the beginning of your day, the 5 things you're going to get done today, even the 3 things you're going to get done today, you're going to crush it productivity-wise.
I love it.
Well, John, I have to tell you, I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship, but also your humility and your approach to life. It's just so, I love your energy and the charisma that you bring. It's no wonder you've been totally successful. But I think that I hope what people take away from today is that we're going to experience cycles. Like we're going to experience cycles. And then for you to close it with saying, we need clarity. And the way we bring clarity is by a simple 3x5 note card. I mean, that's prophetic. Like, I mean, CEOs of the largest companies in the world, that makes sense to them. Mm-hmm. So, John, anyways, how do people connect with you if they want to learn more about ClickFunnels and how your platform can help propel them into some of the things that you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, if you want to follow me, I have a profile on almost every social media platform, and my handle's always at John, JOHNO, Parks, PARKES. There's an E in there. So you can at John Parks, whether you want to watch my YouTube videos or whether you want to watch my Instagram, it's all at John O. Parks. ClickFunnels.com. I think it's the best platform for building a landing page, collecting leads, stuff like that. We use it all the time. We've got, people in the financial industry that use it all the time. So ClickFunnels.com is a fantastic place to go. All the tutorials, all the software, stuff like that. So, that's where we are.
Right on. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us today, and make sure that you tell your family hi for me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow us on your preferred platform wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, success loves company, so share this podcast with someone who you think might enjoy it too, and let's build a community together. Let's keep the momentum going until the next episode drops. And hey, if you've got any questions or topic ideas that you would like us to focus on, send us a message on social media. Again, thanks so much for joining us. Until next time.